Hi guys, welcome to the show. We're back again for another show. Welcome to those that may not know what this is. This is AnimeInkArt Live Talks, where we talk with different blurred creators in the community about their journey in content creation and how we can support each other better in the community. So let's get a few other people in here, then we'll introduce our lovely guests that we have on tonight. I know today's Monday. Monday is never fun to get back to, especially after the holidays, and God bless all the teachers that had to go back. So, but I commend you guys. And yeah, definitely, I had a little break. I wasn't feeling well at first, but I feel a little bit better now. So we're doing well. We're doing well. But today we have very special guest, Capdiesel24. They're a content creator. You may have seen all their things: DC Comics, Batman reviews, Static Shock, nerd culture. You've also probably seen them on Players Alliance, trying to stop game corruption. But they are an indie comic creator. They have their comic called Reaper. The first issue is out, and now they have the Kickstarter for the second issue. And they're also the co-host of the Then versus Now podcast. So let's give it up for our guests right now.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a long day, but I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, the same. Shout out to Midnight Comics for suggesting me, and then now we're here. I'm very grateful to have you.
Yeah, shout out to them. I love them. Those are my other friends out here in Atlanta, and I've seen them at a couple different cons. They do great work, and I was like, hey, who's the best to reach out to about promoting Reaper and things of that nature? And you were one of the first names that popped up.
I appreciate that. We've like helped them out with some of their like Kickstarters, like for the ones for their interns when they had like the midnight showcase, and we've always been supporting them. I've gotten to meet them in person. They're really great people, so I do appreciate it.
Agreed.
So for those that may not know who you are, introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so I guess you get Captain Diesel, I guess or just Cap or Diesel, whatever you want to call me. Or different things. Content creator, now comic book creator. For a while now, been hosting a Then and Now podcast over on YouTube with my co-host Lelouch V and Ethan Murphy, or we just more so at that point we were talking about a lot of different things from writing. Interviewed a couple of different creators and actors and whatnot and developers, and then I have my own channel that I've been working on for like the last year called Captain Diesel Dojo, where I'll do video essays on different things from character breakdowns to interviewing a couple of different comic creators myself there, and just a bunch of different nerds. So I talk nerd stuff, movie reviews, all that good stuff. And now what I'm here for today to talk about being Reaper is my debut comic that I've been writing. I finished writing like last year. Then now I finished the second issue and I'm in production of the second issue as we speak.
That's amazing. And first I want to start off with, because I feel like it ties into like why you started to make your own comics. How long have you been like a blurred, loving everything you love, specifically comics? Because I see how like you really like DC, Marvel, and then when it came to making your own story, you were surprised you got to have some people that been able to write in those like areas as well. So how long have you been liking, all things comics? And then what was that push for you to be like, I gotta write my own now?
So I've been a major comic book fan for as long as I can remember. Mostly, I think like most people started off with the movies. I think the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies were like the first thing that really kind of got me into that. And then obviously following that up was the JLAU, the Justice League Animated Universe, with like Batman, Superman, Flash had his own show at one point, I believe, as well. The Green Lantern, all those guys. That was like I lived and breathed that stuff. And then later on in life, just continued to. I read a few comics when I was younger because my mother was not one of those black moms that would take me to actually the comic shops to buy them things in person. I would have to get them through magazine shops whenever I was any other store that would happen to sell comic books. But as an adult now, I've been collecting and reading and reviewing so much more. Love Marvel and DC, but Mad Cave, Top Cow, Image have amazing stuff as well. And I interviewed a few creators from there, but comics as a whole is something I just absolutely love with a burning passion. As far as the push that got me into writing my own was just really just because I kind of had a similar passion with YouTube for the first part, where initially I watched a lot of creators growing up. I was part of the YouTube child era where I grew up watching them even more so than the actual TV. But I was like, one day I want to do that. And then after the podcast, I started doing more individual stuff on my channel. And I was like, well, I did this. I got a couple thousand subs here. I feel like I'm successful by my own standards with this. What's the next thing I could really try to pursue and get talented in? And comics was just the next best thing for me because I always had a passion for it. It meant a lot to me. So I spent, of course, like a year kind of fleshing out my characters and my universe and all that good stuff. And then finally got to push my friend Ethan to really just get it done. And I locked in for about like 2 weeks and finished the first script. And the second one came a lot quicker, honestly. I finished the second one in like 2 days where I already had the idea in my head and I just knocked it out. But that's kind of the journey that led me here.
That's awesome. And also, I just wanted to ask, like, for those who may not know what the story is about, if you want to give like a quick synopsis about like the character, because you do talk about a lot, but for those who may not know, like what the story is about.
So I guess it's like thematically, the best way I can compare it to something that people may know is that of Bleach, like the anime Bleach, where you're looking at the concept of soul reapers, things like that, and those kind of that kind of situation, and Supernatural, where it's kind of a buddy cop, familial type of situation. There, it's kind of a fusion of those two things. Where in this universe of Reaper, we're essentially following the tale of a guy named James Wright, who is a Reaper, and in this world, Reapers are essentially, I can give it away now because it's going to get into some of the plot later on, but they're essentially Nephilim. For people that have, been keeping up with some of the lore stuff or maybe read certain parts of the Bible, Nephilim are part human, part angel, essentially. And these are just a race of people that have the ability to commune with spirits that are still here on Earth after they passed away and help them cross over to the other side, rather through, speaking to them through those kind of means, like on a ghost whisperer type of situation, or through force if need be, if they're like more of a malevolent spirit type of situation. And we're seeing James Wright kind of go through the process of ignoring that responsibility because the Reapers is something that he didn't really ask for, something he was kind of born into. And due to him neglecting that responsibility, it may or may not have led to, the death of his family. So it's kind of just following that tale. It's kind of I think it kind of starts off as a traditional revenge tale a little bit. And I'm going to kind of get into more concepts and different things like that as the story goes on.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And I know you also touched upon that on some of your, first of all, ask before I get back into that. I know you had the then versus now, because I feel like everything ties in. Is because it's like I've seen your channel, and like over time, like once you got used to like all the content that you did, and you finally were able to talk about your story, like because you like developed that audience of people. So I want to ask, how did the then versus like now podcast start, and then how did it transition to you being able to like make more of your own content that got like the momentum going for your story?
So Then and Now started in, I think either in the middle of the pandemic or like right after the pandemic, where I would be in PlayStation parties with Otis, my friend Otis East, Laducci, and my guy Ethan Murphy. We would just talk about things from anime to movies to shows. We just like why we like these things, why we think these things didn't work, what we thought worked, and different things like that. I had those conversations a lot.
Yeah.
And after a while, I got to the point where I was like, hey, I'm in the house bored because of the pandemic. I really want to, take a chance out there. And because for a while I was working with the page was called Nerds of Melanin back in the day before it got snatched up by HNIC. We'll say what it is. They stole the page from my guy Otis, and for a long time worked with that page, and I would help out with post-production for shows, like background stuff with show notes and being in a lot of those meetings, and Otis would kind of keep me in those rooms. And after a while, I kind of saw what it took for them to make that content. I'm like, I think I can do this, and I want to try my hand at making a podcast. And I called up Ethan and was like, hey, Ethan, do you want to do this thing with me? We have a lot of dope conversation. At that point in time, I was like 21. And Ethan's a little bit older. He's an older gentleman. And I was like, now it sounds like a dope concept, but we have two generational divides and perspectives as far as nerds go. We want to have that genuine conversation. And a little bit later on, we brought in Otis, and things just kind of worked so smoothly with us that we kind of just brought him on. And we're a trio of co-hosts as far as the podcast goes. And we've been doing it for 4 years now, off and on, trying to be more consistent with it this upcoming year, but really just kind of getting to a lot of that different stuff. And that's kind of what led us to Then and Now as a whole.
That makes sense. And also for you, you're able to, for your comic, you're able to partner with Echelon Novels and I believe Global Comics. And how were you able to get the opportunity to publish your book under Echelon Novels?
I'll be straightforward with Echelon. That is pure nepotism. People that are not aware, Ethan Murphy, one of my co-hosts, he owns Echelon Graphic Novels. He started off, he left his day job like 10 plus years ago in Virginia and went over to LA to start Echelon Graphic Novels, and has been in that grind of he by the time I wrote my book, Ethan has already made like several, or if not more, books and underneath Echelon, and has worked with a bunch of different people. And he was kind of my guiding light in regards to the process of writing. Like, he really gave me a lot of insight in how to write screenplays for comics, how to were about like that whole process of getting one made and everything that comes with that. He was pretty much my mentor as far as that goes, and like a big brother figure for me. So he saw my vision. He kind of saw the story from beginning to end, from concept to the actual final script. And I would let him take a look at the script and things like that. And he thought it was good enough to go underneath the brand. So we worked out that whole deal of publishing the book underneath Echelon, and that whole process.
That's awesome. And also, what was it like what were some of like the lessons that you had to learn? Well, first, for people that may not know your background into like the writing that you do that got you into writing comics, you can share that now for people to know, like, you're not new to this, you're true to this.
So I wouldn't consider myself like a crazy avid writer growing up. I read a lot and I watched a lot of shows and movies, and I was familiar with story beats when it came to scripting and things of that nature. So I would read a lot of scripts, but I wouldn't write a lot. I think I would write a couple novels, like novelization style growing up, like everybody had to for school. And I would tend to do a lot of fiction stuff that would be based on, based on the different things that I was watching. So a lot of nerdy related stuff. So when I got into actually writing the script, I kind of had an idea of how to write it. Because for people that aren't aware, writing a comic book is pretty different than you would write a regular novel, because you have to write in the scenes, what things look like, captions. It needs to be very detailed in how you do it, so that when your artists get your script, they kind of have a baseline to bring your vision to life into how you would imagine it. So it was a whole process in regards to like adjusting to that style, because it was very much so different than anything I'd ever done before. And I'm blessed to work with very, very true and tried professionals that have been in this for a while. So they were able to honestly take what I had and make it like flawlessly, and also really communicate with me as to what I was trying to get across, or what I was looking for there. So it was difficult to start with, but again, getting into the second script, I kind of already knew what I needed to look for and how to get things moving.
Yeah, that's true. And for you being like a fan of like comics for a while, and then building the team that you had, not only to make some of the covers for Reaper, like the variant covers that you have for the Kickstarters, but also just the story in general, how much of a full circle moment that was, and what was the process like building the team for your story?
It was tough, because although there was a lot of nepotism initially with the Echelon thing with Ethan. So for people that aren't aware too, if you have interest in getting your own book made, Echelon does offer the service of like helping creatives get their books made. Like if you bring a script, or if you have an idea for a script, Ethan can help you either write it, or Ethan can get you, because there's a lot of professional artists on the Echelon staff and on the team that are currently working on stuff. I think the current the current Supernatural books that are going on right now, one of the cover artists for that is under Eater. He's done, I think, a cover for my issue 3 book, and he's worked with Echelon for a while. But me going into it, I didn't want to do that whole thing of like just doing complete nepotism and just like relying on Ethan for everything. So I utilized, I think my color is Carlos, who's on his team, but everyone else, for the most part, I found on my own. I went through Instagram, through Twitter. I was even asking around with friends. I've worked with the Blur Without Fear, Ernie. I got Ernie Carruthers for a little bit, and he's sent me to a couple of different people to look for. But just scouring the internet, I think I spent like 16 hours total just like looking for the people, because I also had a particular type of art style that I was looking for initially for the cover and for the book itself, and just finding somebody that fit my taste and that also had a little bit of experience, because I understood that me being a rookie going into this, I probably shouldn't look for another rookie, because I'm already gonna have a lot of mistakes made on my own. I want to make sure I find people that can cover a lot of my mistakes if I have any. So I was able to find Julia Galazzi, who is an amazing artist that's doing my interiors right now, and she'd been working on a lot of interior work for Marvel she did Marvel, Dark Horse, and I believe it's some Image stuff. I could be wrong, but I know for sure Marvel and Dark Horse. And it did amazing work there. And I reached out to Lim, and got her. Carlos is another, again, my colorist came from the Echelon side of things, and he's amazing. I've read a lot of comic books in my lifetime, and I've never seen somebody that does colors in the way that he does them and how vibrant they are and the details and the layers they have there, and how he operates with it. So I have an amazing team, and I'm blessed to have them and how I work with them. As far as the covers go, I wouldn't say all the cover artists are a part of the team, just for the factor of I branched out to different people and got different stuff. I have some newer blood, Bunny's Art Studios. He got on Instagram. He was doing a lot of dope. He usually does like commission work for people that look to get like particular art done of their favorite stuff. So if you want like a Power Ranger piece of art made, or he does a lot of anime stuff, people will go to him and be like, hey, I want like Ring Goku and Goku on a poster. And he'll do like crazy mashups for people like that, or his different styles. And he does great work. So I hit him up and he did the commission for that cover. And when I first made the book, at around the time when I was like finishing the book up, the first script, that's when the Absolute Universe started to take off. So I'm a big Green Lantern fan. If you haven't like seen a lot of my, I think I have a whole, I cover John Stewart on my channel. I love Green Lantern with a passion. And the guy that was doing the cover art and the interior art, Janoy Lindsay, I was like, I want him because I love his style. His style is so amazing to me, and it fits the tone that I'm looking for. Although I could get him for the interior stuff, because again, he is booked up like all the time doing stuff with Absolute Green Lantern. I caught him at a perfect time where he had the freedom to do a cover for me, and I love his cover. I damn near wanted to make his cover the A cover. But I needed a cover that kind of fit what the story was on the interior, so people kind of get an idea of what was going on there. And then the other artists, again, were just people that have worked for Marvel or DC that has happened to just DM on a whim and ask, and they were willing to do the cover even before I had a lot of the concept stuff together for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I saw a video when you were explaining Reaper, because I know like everybody has like the inspirations, like to get an idea of like what the vibes are. I was interested also by the fact that you were like Bleach and Supernatural, and then I saw like we had the explanation for it. So for people who may not understand why you say that, definitely explain how like it has like, you know, inspirations from them.
Yeah, I'm a big horror fan. Like I love horror movies and horror content, and Supernatural is one of those shows I would love growing up because it's like the horror tone that we get, like a new horror episode every week. And then out of the big three, obviously I'm a big Bleach fan. I love I love the concepts. I love like katanas. Like I back here somewhere, I think like behind me or on the side. I'm working on like an anime sword collection, just a nerd sword collection.
Oh, nice.
So I get a katana. So Bleach kind of just it resonated with me a lot too, especially in regards to Kubo having a lot of representation with Black people. Like there wasn't a lot of Mr. Popos in Bleach. There was a lot of Black people that just looked dope and had a lot of dope ways about them. So I worked on that, and that's kind of where my inspiration kind of drew from both of those. And then, funny enough, like initially, I didn't see the inspiration there until I was trying to figure out how I could pitch this book. And those are two. I'm like, oh, I got stuff from both of those.
And speaking of Midnight Comics, here they are.
Shout out to the family. Shout out to the family.
And also, what was the inspiration behind your main character, James?
So James, I tried my best not to make a self-insert character. I feel like most writers, when they're doing their first projects, their first characters, their first thing that they do is just like them and their life story. So he's a bit of me, a little bit. Obviously, the aesthetic there. I wanted to make sure I had somebody that kind of looked like me a little bit. But he is a combination of a lot of different people that I've met throughout my life and that have similar stories in regards to the concept of, again, inherited responsibility and that whole thing. He is somebody who is understandably so a little selfish. He's young, has a lot of aspirations and goals for himself in life, and he kind of sees his family as a little bit of an anchor that kind of holds him down a little bit versus them being a place of home that most people see them as. So he loves his family, but, you know, at the same time, he wants to fly free and go experience the world and live it, do his thing. So kind of just playing around with that concept, and kind of seeing where this goes there, because I'm still kind of expounding upon him and where I want his journey to go. But he is definitely somebody that I feel like has a lot to offer as far as a protagonist goes.
That's true. And I know you mentioned like for people that read the first issue, what is some things that you want them to take away from like the story?
So the first issue alone is just not a lot. The first issue has a lot of concepts there in regards to things there are a few things that are important to me. Was showcasing Black love and this Black family initially, and showing that there can be examples of stability there. Which you'll see James's family initially. and really just showing, again, just being as Black as possible without being overbearing. So if you're a big music fan, as I love music, you'll see lyrics for certain songs that are a little bit of oldies, some Sam Cooke, no, Aaron Neville, not Sam Cooke, sorry. Aaron Neville's in there, and just, again, showcasing a lot of where I came from is in this first issue. As far as the themes and the stories, again, you'll see a lot of that whole idea of the inherited responsibility, but you'll see a lot more thematically probably in this second issue going forward. I'm going to play around with a lot of ideas of human nature and human beings and things that kind of get into that in the second issue. I think each issue I'm going to try to start to like tackle what is being human a little bit more throughout the course of this book, because you're going to have figures that are gods or demons, whatever it may be, that are more celestial bodies. And a lot of human beings deify different people like that. We see God or see angels as a certain type of thing that are beyond human perception. So I kind of wanted to just have fun with humanizing a little bit. I feel like I enjoy a lot of shows where they humanize these characters, like the Lucifer TV show.
Yeah.
I love seeing those things where you can make God and the devil, whatever it may be, human, not just motifs of just like evil or all good or whatever it may be, but they're people at the end of the day that just, they go through things that we go through. Because even when you look at the Bible, you see things like, especially in the Old Testament, to where God seems a little angry. So
yeah, that's a tad bit.
just a little bit. Just playing around with that concept and seeing what that looks like.
No, yeah, that makes sense. And I know you were saying like how you've always been fascinated on like that take, and then especially like just in life when we deal with like carrying on responsibility and like the consequences of that, and it could be good and bad. And there was a video where you did talk about that. You talked about like how in the story it's positive, and then how in the story it's negative, and like how you tied into like God versus demons and stuff like that in the show. So I kind of wanted you to like talk about that. I found it interesting because like I don't see stories all the time really talk about like the responsibility aspect of it.
Yeah, it's something that, because I was trying to figure out how I could tackle this, because obviously there's nothing new under the sun. I think that every story that can be told has been told, but it's just a matter of how you put your spin on it and how you insert a little bit of your own self into that story. But I think self-inherited responsibility is what I don't see get passed around too often. You see it in certain stuff where it's like maybe a child gets inherited, or maybe you inherit this like family business, but this concept of a reaper is something like, okay, I could play around with this and I can have fun with this. And I also kind of had even my own experiences with the concept growing up. And it's something that, again, I was really passionate about telling, and wanted to really dive into the whole idea of what that looked like for James and how he reacts to it. And when you're in a situation where you have to take on this responsibility, or people get hurt and people rely on you, obviously you may not be good at it at the start because it's forced upon you, but how do you respond to those pressures in life?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think you're doing a good job so far. And I know you were touching on the fact that like obviously like most first issues is like the introduction, but for the second one, you say you had an easier time. So what were some of those things that like you took from, like, I guess lessons you took from issue 1 to make it a little bit easier for you to figure out what you wanted the story to be going forward for issue number 2?
So a lot of the improvements in issue 2 over issue 1 was more so for me technical stuff when it comes to the writing aspect of it. I feel like I approached issue 1 from a very much so like a TV show perspective, where I was writing things as if it was a regular screenplay. And some of the details and some of the stuff kind of maybe fell through the cracks in regards to how I communicated it to my artist, which there's a million flaws in my mind in the first issue that I probably will see, because I saw it over and over and over again that people may not catch, like little things that, again, I think it's a great book, and I'm blessed I was able to get that book done. But I don't know, maybe it's just the perfectionist in me, or I hyper obsess over like the little flaws there. So a lot of the flaws that I saw that I could fix in the second issue, I worked on. And also as far as just making sure I'm writing it in a way that is smooth. And I think the benefit I also had from issue 1 to 2 is that when I was writing issue 1, I wasn't reading as many comic books at that point in time. I was reading a handful, but I wasn't like in depth. Between then and now, I've been like, I have like, what if I can see it, if I can show it over here. I have like 3 boxes full of comics I've been collecting over the last 3 years and I got stuff over there on the shelf from just like different runs from the Marvel Blood Hunt stuff to the absolute Batman and Wonder Woman and stuff that's going on now. So I think I'm also obsessed with Witchblade right now. I've been reading the 2024 run of that, and I'm getting to see all these great writers from Scott Snyder and Margaret Bennett and even Moewa Adeola that's doing the Storm stuff right now. And seeing how they storytell, how they set up their stories. So I'm really good at macro writing, where I can write a whole universe out. I can write out concepts and religions and things like that. But I struggle and put a lot of time and effort into make sure I clean up the little things like dialogue and little things like scene for scene, making sure that these scenes connect into future scenes and kind of the setups and the payoffs, that whole thing, like the little stuff. And I'm seeing how these other artists do it and how amazing they are and how smooth they are doing it. I was able to kind of steal some things and how they go about pacing the stories and things like that, that I feel like make this second issue, at least at this moment in time, like my magnum opus as a writer, where I maybe didn't spend as much time as I did writing the first one because maybe I wasn't as confused. But once I saw the vision for it, and it just the water faucet of idea just kind of flowed, and I was just going, and it's knocked it out pretty quick.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I also know that the Kickstarter is also, if you want to share like the Kickstarter, like the tiers, when it ends and everything like that.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter has been up for 2 days now, so it ends in like another 58 days. And essentially, as far as the tiers, the first tier obviously is going to be like, it's like $5 to enter in. If you guys want to get that, you'll get an exclusive pinup art that I had made for the first issue that funny enough, my interior artist did, because I wanted to try to get her to do some other special stuff for it because she has a great art style. And it's just a pinup that shows James and a few of the different fiend types, which fiends are, I guess, the equivalent to demons in this world, and a few of the different types there, as well as like some of the bigger bads you may see in the future issues. You'll see those in that pinup there. The next tier, I think, is $15, I believe. Yeah. And that's getting, like, you get a digital copy, like, locked in. So if you want to read it, you don't really care about collecting physicals as much, you get that. So as soon as the book's done, that digital copy will be emailed to you. And then the next tier, I think, is 30. I need to pull up the Kickstarter. I can probably pull it up to look at it here. So I can tell you 100%.
Yeah.
Give me 1 sec so I can look at it, and I don't want to speak out the side of my neck and be inaccurate.
You're fine.
But I think it is okay. Here we go. So rewards, yeah. So that's the exclusive art tier is that digital copy is $15. At $30, that's when you're getting a physical copy of the book. So you'll automatically get that physical copy sent to you wherever you. Right as of now, I'm only shipping in the U.S. just because our printers that print our books, they're based in New York right now. Okay. I think it's a whole lot of hoops to jump through to get it internationally sold right now. So if you are overseas and you want to read this, I would recommend for now just on the digital. I'll look at speaking with our printers soon. If I do have a lot of interest in people overseas that want physical copies and kind of figuring out how that works and how much extra it'll cost to get that book overseas. And then the last tier is a $40 tier, which is going to be a variant cover tier. Funny enough, I linked up with an artist that, funny enough, Midnight Comics connected me with to do a variant cover, special cover for the book that will only be given out to people that supported at that tier, or that, that supported that tier, and I'll send that cover out. And then my plan is to have another like 3 to 4 covers, obviously, like I normally did, but 3 of those will be widely available to everybody. And one of that fourth one, that last one, will only be one for the Kickstarter backers.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, definitely is something that is a must read. So definitely you guys gotta check that out. And also I wanted to ask, what was the response? How did you react to the response when you first released issue 1 and seeing people have physical and digital copies of it? How did you feel?
Got a little watery eyed. I think I shed a couple of tears. It's I think as someone who reviews a lot of content all the time, personally, I feel like for you to be a true reviewer of something, you need to at some point get your own work out there to be critiqued, because you start to understand difficulties and things of that nature that go into production of something, whether it be a movie, a book, whatever it may be, and things that can get overlooked. I think sometimes people review things or talk about how good something is. There's a human element that gets lost, where they just see a product and they don't see the people behind it or even what went into making that thing. So me writing a book and seeing all the different difficulties and the little things that went into making that book, I have a whole new appreciation for comic books as a whole. And just the art of creating art and writing as a whole. So seeing my book in people's hands physically and having a few people that I know that, again, Ernie, again, I got Burger off here. He gave me some feedback the other day after he finally read it, and he was giving me some good notes for it. It felt surreal seeing people that are nerds and have their own biases and favorites when it comes to Marvel, DC, Image, whatever it may be, read my book and say, hey, I enjoyed this. It gave me a little bit of it filled me with pride a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, honestly, yes, because it's just like it's cool, like, whatever the response is, just to have somebody like critique your work so that you can just improve it, and then just seeing people's reactions to it, and especially if they love the story, I think it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it was dope. It's dope, and again, more people seeing it by the day. A lot of my friends have already, 9 times out of 10, if you're like a close friend of mine, I've already sent you all the art throughout the process, because I would get like a page back from my artist. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I gotta say.
All my friends, and at a certain point, they're like, all right, yeah, we've seen it. We'll read it when it's done. But seeing people that have not ever known me at all, that are strangers, pick my book up and read it, it's a sense of pride and a blessing to see that thing done.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And for people that want to read it, from what I researched, I know you can read it on Global Comics. You have like the store on Echelon, you can get digital and a physical copy. But just in case I missed anything, just let the people know where they can read it.
Yeah, so that's it for now. Obviously, the first one I would recommend is going to echelongraphicnovels.com and getting it there. If you want the physical book, it's only $5 for a physical issue. And as soon as you buy it, it gets emailed directly to you, and you get the PDF file for it. And then you can buy whatever cover you want. And if you want it physical as well, you can go buy it from the Echelon website. We have the options for either of those. And our printer, it prints directly from hot off the print and gets shipped directly to you, no matter where you are, at least if you're in the US. And then if you already have an account on Global Comics, and you have like that, I think their deal's like 60 or something like that bucks a year, where you can read unlimited books from there. It's there as well, some Global Comics. I think there's like 137 people that have read it on there that I've seen already. So those are like the two options you have now. You can either buy it from Echelon, or you can go to Global Comics. I tried to get it in as many avenues easy for people to consume as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I would say, what was your favorite part of just writing the story? I like asking that question because it's like everybody has a different answer.
I think my favorite part, so it's two things. For the first issue, it's different than it is the second issue. The first issue, I wasn't as dialogue heavy because, one, I wasn't as confident in my ability to write dialogue. And I thought it was a little bit more difficult. But I really enjoyed the set pieces, like imagining the environment or the home that these characters are in, or even some of the action pieces. And seeing that after the fact was amazing to me. The second issue was where I really got more confident in my dialogue, because at that point I've read tens of possibly hundreds of comics at this point now, between then and now, where I've got to see what good dialogue looks like. And I got to really play around with it and introduce characters that are going to be very interesting going forward, and also getting to create their personalities. I think it's one thing to make a character and you see what they look like aesthetically and like their backstory, but like really in your mind creating what this person sounds like, how this person thinks, how this person talks from a dialogue perspective or vocabulary perspective. Really getting to play around with that and showcasing these characters was something I had a lot of fun with in the second issue, and a lot of fun going forward. Because I think as of now, I have because in my mind, I have a plan out the where Reaper as a whole first major arc is going to be 50 issues in total. So I'm going to work on getting these out as frequent as time and money allows. And I had the whole thing storyboarded out, and I even have a 5-issue mini series spinoff that'll go into the next arc kind of planned out. I think during Christmas, I was at home with family, and for a whole 6 hours, I was just going at this point, it's the matter of me going through and actually writing out and connecting the dots of the story so far. So I have everything planned out as of now.
That you actually kind of like you read my mind. I kind of was gonna ask because I feel like the story can become I was gonna say like a mega series or a multiverse. So you kind of sort of answered my question, but I was gonna ask how deep do you want the story to go? I know you said the 50 issues, but how far do you want it?
I don't think it'll go on forever. I think realistically, at max, it'll maybe go maybe altogether 60 to 70 at max. I don't want it to go on forever. I don't want it to be this major thing that just like with Batman 159 have different writers get on it. Because I do at some point too want to write other stories as a horror writer. I want, as part of the reason why I ended up doing the 5-issue miniseries, just so I could like do something pure horror and really kind of like tie that into the main series. But once Reaper is done, probably even throughout the course of Reaper, I may write other books. Like they'll probably be more horror related, but if I team up with Ethan or Otis to do something else, because they have their own series as well that are dope. And I think me and Ethan have talked about doing a collab book together at some point. I'll have other stories coming out, but as far as Reprint itself, it'll probably run maybe 60 to 70 issues. I feel like a good length of like, all right, you can read it where it has and I think I saw an article or interview that Todd McFarlane did a while back where he was like, in his perspective, or his opinion, for a book to have really good staying power for the future, you want to get to around 50 issues where people have enough love where they can, read it and binge through it, but also you don't want it to run too long to where now it's overstayed its welcome. I think 60 to 70 is a good number for me where I can tell this story in more than enough time and also, just give a good bit where it's something that can last the test of time later on. So in 20, 30 years, however long I'm alive, I can look back and be like, yeah, that's something I'm proud of. That's something I created.
That's true. And I like to ask people that, like, how, because I like how unique like your story is to like, everything you do for content to become an indie content creator, because you were a consumer before you were a writer. So you consumed it a lot. You had like your critiques and what could be good and what could be better. So I want to ask, because you were doing that for so long, how did that kind of help you out when you decided to make your own comic, and then vice versa? How did making the comic kind of help you when you go back and you do those reviews?
First and foremost, it's the idea of representation. I think in any of the content that I've ever done, I've always preached how important representation is, especially for Black and brown people, specifically for Black people, because we're a lot better now. In the fact there are a lot of Black characters that get shine, but I feel like in Marvel, especially in Marvel and DC, they don't treat their Black and brown characters the best. They're usually not centered in a lot of stories, or not around for too long. So my big thing was making sure that I have a lot of diversity within my series, and that these characters are not just tropes. They're not just stereotype, but they're actual people first and foremost. And yeah, the culture can come into, dictating who they are and how they operate as people, but before anything else, they are people. And that was a big thing for me. And as well as some of the technical stuff in regards to just not doing too much. I think I recently talked about, like, with the recent X-Men Age of Revelation stuff going on, where there wasn't a central story, really. There wasn't like a central book for the whole run. And then there were just so many different things going on where you kind of get lost as the reader. I want my book series to be, although it's going to be a little bit lengthy, or lengthier than most, it's going to be very centered and really easy to follow along. You start at issue 1, and when you get to issue 60, you've read this entire dope story. You don't have to worry about reading 15 other tie-ins to get it to understand what's going on here. Now, granted, the 5-issue tie-in I have is going to be the one thing, but that's like, again, it's going to be 5 issues, and it's going to be one small chunk branch off, and it's going to take place after the end of the first arc. So you don't have to worry about jumping back and forth. You just read up to this point, go here, and then you're back on track.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I mean, sometimes it's needed. Sometimes I feel like it just helps. It helps like kind of flesh out the story. I kind of like that when it actually helps, because like some series, like they'll like do like don't crash out on me. I really love Stranger Things, but Stranger Things is doing that where they're like they're telling the story, but they're going back to the past after it ended. But this is but I love when it's kind of just like, no, it just adds to the story, explains what's already there. They're kind of like going back in time, and it's like, here's what we missed, and it's like
yeah. And I think I'll play around with that a tad bit in regards to really just more so showing relationships with characters. Like it won't be full flashbacks, because I don't want the whole Naruto swing situation. But because I don't want to bog the story down like just sitting in the past and telling it, but I want to find a way to where I can communicate things while also showcasing why these things are important to this character or these people going forward. Again, it's all a journey, and I'm going to probably get better as the issue goes on, because I'm going to grow as a writer and find different things I want to add in there. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
No, yeah, I mess with it. I'm excited for it. And one thing I wanted to like segue into before I get back into that is how you're part of the players' allegiance.
Players Alliance, yeah.
Yeah, Players Alliance. And I wanted to ask, like, what inspired you to be part of that, and how was it for you to be able to like be part of history in a sense, because you were pushing, for getting those signatures in hopes that the EA buyout wouldn't have happened. So how did you feel that you were able to contribute the best way that you could?
I guess the best word to sum it all up is honored. I was very honored to be a part of that. I think I've kind of devolved into the Players Alliance mascot at this point. But the Players Alliance is something, again, funny enough, a little bit of nepotism. Not Ethan, but my friend Otis, the other co-host of the Now podcast, was a part of. He was one of the founding members of it, and they needed help with finding creators that could, just help them get the message out there more about the different things they were doing. And I was just, I feel like I was well scouted as somebody that does a good job on it. I feel like I had grown enough as a creator to be able to help them get more eyes on their stuff, and I think I've done a good job of that thus far. And as far as the thing that happened, so just to kind of give a little bit of backstory, people that aren't aware, the Players Alliance as a whole is a group of gamers. I've been a gamer for a long time. I love video games as well, especially the storytelling that goes in there. They're a group of gamers who are all about making sure that gaming is kind of returned into the hands of the consumer and the gamer itself. Corporate greed, a lot of different aspects of that have kind of seeped into gaming for a long time now. And you've seen things like predatory microtransactions, other things like AI being used to make certain aspects of games, and just a lot of different things that just aren't good for the consumer as a whole in the long run. And the Players Alliance is about combating all that. And the most recent big battle that we're currently fighting is the EA acquisition deal. It's a leveraged buyout deal that's going to be happening, or that's scheduled to happen, I think, at some point in this upcoming year. It was announced like last October. Yeah. And it's bad for the most part because Saudi crown royalty, like the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, and a bunch of different groupings of people from America, one being Jared Kushner, who is Trump's son-in-law, I believe. Yeah. They're all a part of this big conglomerate that wants to buy EA. And although EA has not been the most morally great company over time, I think they're probably one of the most hated companies, period, even outside of gaming. They are one of the bigger publishers in the world, and they are publishers for a lot of games that are groundbreaking within the industry, from Mass Effect to people that love Sims to some extent, to even all my sports guys that played Madden. Like they have their hands in all these major games. And if you want these games to have some form of purity and just overall honesty in the artistry in making these games, we don't want to sell this company. We don't want this company bought up by a country that does not have the best track record when it comes to humanitarian efforts and how they treat their own people and how they view different things. Because you could have things like even same-sex characters or marriages or people within the LGBTQIA plus community, like not really getting that representation anymore, because let's say Saudi's like, hey, we don't want that in the games anymore. Or we don't want Black people. We don't want this particular type of story. We're going to have these things being dictated by other people that are outside the country, which is a whole different crazy thing. And then however people feel about the Trump administration, I'm not fucking with it, let alone his son-in-law. It doesn't feel great to have somebody that's tied to him own that as well. Because again, I'm a major Mass Effect fan. Yeah. So I'd love my game if we get a new Mass Effect game at some point. I know it's been like 5 years since the next game got announced. I'd love for that game to come out and be very much so made in the creative freedom that would allow for people within the company. So we journeyed on to get 5,000 signatures on our petition, and we delivered that to the United States Treasury Office in Washington, D.C. And then we proceeded to go lobby at the Rayburn building in the Congress building, where a lot of the congressmen are. And we spoke with the staffers for Chuy Garcia, I think oversees Illinois, Maxwell Frost, who is the first Gen Z congressman ever, who was overseeing, I think, Florida as a whole, or maybe Miami. And then we spoke with Bernie Sanders' staff and kind of just preached to them the importance of them speaking out against this deal on Congress floor and getting with a lot of their constituents, and not constituents, their colleagues as a whole and other congressmen to help fight this deal. And from what I gathered, they just didn't know about it. They didn't know about the deal. They didn't know how big gaming was as a whole, because they were really only concerned about the Warner Brother deal that was going on with Netflix and other people. So it's something we brought to their attention, something that they were very much so surprised and taken aback by. And I think we may have made some headway as far as that goes, but only time can tell. But yeah, that's it as far as that goes. That's what we did. I think that was like last month or mid last month, some point.
I mean, I wish you guys luck on that, and I know it's not an easy feat, man. Like that. That's crazy. Oh my goodness. But somebody has like it has to start with a few. Like you don't get anything done unless you start it. So I'm rooting for you guys when it comes to that.
Thanks, man. It's one of those things, especially with this deal in particular, where even no matter what side of the fence you lean on politically, or hell, you can even think I shouldn't have rights. Usually everyone is in agreement that this deal isn't a good thing. So that's the advantage we have, is that we can get so many people on board, no matter what side of the fence you lean on or believe or how you feel. We all agree this isn't a good thing for gaming.
Yeah, that's true. But I slightly heard about it because on YouTube, and there's a few people that like Sims, and they were talking about it. So I was like, oh wow, this is a full circle, because like I just heard about it. So
yeah, it's because it's a leverage buyout. They technically don't have the money for it, so they're saying, hey, we promise you that we'll get the money back for the deal through other means if you give us the money for this to buy this thing, which is this whole deal is going to put $20 billion in debt on EA after they buy the company. And for any company that's in debt, they're going to get that money back. They're going to pay off that debt. And it's going to come through ways of them laying a lot of people off, them replacing the people they laid off with different AI measures, or them just upcharging on everything from the microtransactions to the games themselves. As a whole, this deal just isn't a good thing for people that are going to be playing the games, that want to play these games. Or people even that work there. Because again, being a game developer is a job that is very much so, we'll say niche, not even niche. It's pretty niche in regards to how difficult it is to get into, and people losing those jobs, their dream jobs, just seems it's bad. Even despite the idea that you can't feed your family now in a way, but now something that you worked your whole life to get into, you just lost because people are greedy.
Yeah, that's true. And moving back to like your story and everything, so I was interested in when you were talking about like the creation behind like the fiends, which are the villains in your story. And I just want, like, you don't have to spoil too much, but I just wanted to ask, like, what went into creating those villains, because like the way I interpret it is like, it's realistic. It's like, it's good and bad. It doesn't seem like, it seems like something that could naturally happen in a story, like, even though it's like centered around like like a horror / supernatural. It's like I like the way that you created the villains. So I wanted to give you that chance to talk about it.
Yeah, so the villains in this. So we have, again, there's kind of tiers to this stuff. At the baseline floor level, you have these natural things created that are fiends. You have fiends, and you have, well, it starts with a husk. A husk, if you played Mass Effect, you kind of think of a similar thing there, to where they are what happens when people that die on the human plane of existence die in ways in which they're not satisfied, or where maybe you're in shock because you were murdered, or whatever, maybe something's keeping you here. And because you're here, you're bitter, you're confused, you kind of morph into this husk to where you're not a human being anymore. You're just this, I guess, entity of pure confusion, anger, whatever it may be. So you're kind of like a mindless insect for the most part. I think I relate them to insects. And over time, after you sit here for too long as a husk, you then kind of digivolve or pokevolve into a fiend. And fiends are pretty much, they're pretty much husks, to where they're a little bit more sentient, or where they can think a little bit more, but there's this bigger husk where they're just corrupted souls that are here. The big bads of this story that you're going to see at some point, you're going to start to encounter and start to trickle in, are going to be the Unbound. And the Unbound are essentially going to be the biggest and most dangerous fiends throughout history that Lucifer himself has recruited, for what particular reason has not been revealed yet. And they just think, again, I guess a little bit of my inspiration kind of came from the Espada with Bleach, as well as like the Akatsuki, I guess, where they're not really just clandestine secret organization, but they are this group that was created for the sole purpose of something to get done. So you're going to see a couple of different types of characters that are going to be brought into the story, where I'm going to have fun writing with them. And because it's, again, more horror themed, this will get into some really cool, spooky designs that I'm excited to show off soon, and kind of playing around with that whole concept there. So there's 5 Unbound off the top of my head. I think it's 5 in total that we'll see throughout the course of this whole big arc, and play around with them. And then obviously the big bad himself, Lucifer Morningstar, it will make his own appearance. I think, funny enough, no, I can't. I'm not too much. You may or may not see him in the second issue. We'll put it like that.
All right, no problem. Yeah, like I said, whatever you can share,
Yeah.
And how long have you been into horror? I know it plays a factor into like your stories and stuff like that.
Longer than I should have been allowed to. I was definitely one of those kids who was like sneaking to watch the horror movie where I would have the button on the last channel going to the Disney Channel, whatever it be. So coming down the way, I switched it real quick. So I would watch a bunch of horror movies I wasn't supposed to watch. I think early memories of me watching like From Dusk Till Dawn when I wasn't supposed to watch that at all. Watching The Exorcist, Poltergeist, and then in high school, whatever else, I was in love with Ari Aster films. So Midsommar, Hereditary, things like that. And then also growing up, I was watching a lot of the Saw movies. So I've pretty much been into every form of horror, from the psychological thriller situation to the gore, or the quote unquote torture porn that you see with Saw stuff, to just the supernatural ghost stuff. So like the slashers. Like I love horror with a passion. That's just my thing. I've loved it since I was little.
No, yeah, I could definitely see it like in the art and stuff like that. You make sure to like put like that, like, I don't want to say fear factor, but like gruesome factor, like, you know, it's stuff about to get real around. Like that's what I get from it.
Yeah, I was trying to do that line because I know it. I didn't want to make it just be a book that was like DC Black Label, where it was like adult oriented, where it's just like crazy stuff. But I'm a horror fan, so you got to have a little bit of guts and a little bit of grotesque stuff there every now and then in a story.
No, yeah, I get that. And
I think if I had to rate it, it'd probably be like PG-13 if I had to give it a rating as a whole.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously, don't give it to your 5-year-old, but like,
right.
No, yeah, I definitely, you got a good thing going. And I wanted to ask, what are some of the goals that you have for yourself for everything you're doing? It could be long term, short term, whatever you want to share.
As far as just me as a creative as a whole, again, continuing to write Reaper, finishing up Reaper, maybe potentially writing other comics, and continue to try to grow the YouTube channel. Something I'm still passionate about. I'm going to continue to do. But the next big thing on the horizon, I'm not rushing into quite right now because it's going to require a lot of foundational building and probably a little bit more of a financial investment, is I want to be a voice actor at a certain point. I think voice acting is something I've had a big passion for as well growing up. And I was one of those people that wanted to know who were the voices behind these characters. When I'm looking at like the Justice League, the animated series stuff, when you're hearing about people like Phil Lamar, you're hearing about people like a Cree Summers, like a Yuri Watanabe, not Yuri Watanabe, Yuri Lorenthal, I'm sorry. And people like that are just, they've been the voices of like multiple generations of characters, from anime to cartoons to video games. Keith David, another big one. He's funny enough, Keith David is like a big inspiration for one of the characters. He's a big inspiration for Lucifer. I can go ahead and say that. He's a big inspiration as far as aesthetically and how he speaks and things like that for characters like that. So I would love to voice act at some point and kind of play around with my voice and take on these roles. Now, actual acting, I don't know. That may not be my vibe. If I get a chance later on in life, maybe I'll play around with it for like an indie project or something. But voice acting is like where my passion lies and where I want to get into that. But that's going to require me like building a studio, playing around with the software, actually like training and practicing and playing around with my voice. And I'm getting some practice now with reading scripts just from writing my own for YouTube and whatnot. But playing around with that stuff is where I want. That's like the next big thing for me, probably. That's going to take a little bit of time to get into.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to that as well. And yeah, one of the questions I usually ask is about support in the blurred community. I ask like what we do well to support each other and what can we do better to support each other. I ask that question because everybody is in a different part of the community. They have a different response to the question.
So for me, I tend to go based off of history, right? In America, we have a few different examples of when Black people get together and we commune and we congregate, we are extremely successful. Even outside of us, when you're looking at like even Native Americans. But biggest example being something like Black Wall Street, right? Where you saw a large group of Black people come together and say, we're going to buy Black, we're going to spend Black, we're going to build Black communities. And we thrived, and we were probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest. I got some stories that can probably check that for me, like economically booming communities within the country at that point in time, before it was, torn down by people that were jealous and, and cold-hearted about it. So I kind of want to look at the same way when it comes to just Black creators in general, to where I don't want to have this crabs in a bucket mentality. I want to support other Black creators, whether that be people that are larger like a RDC and either going to DreamCon and supporting their projects, or someone like a Corey Kenshin who's doing his own manga, or if it comes to like smaller indie creatives like myself or like Midnight Comics, or even other writers that are indie, but maybe have a little more of a name, like Stephanie Williams, who's done the Nubia run and she's doing like Roots of Madness right now. And it's, again, buying those books, supporting those books, promoting those books, and really being there for each other is how we can kind of grow as a people. And finding like-minded people like that is kind of how I hope that we can grow, as not even just as Black people, but as indie creators as a whole. Because at the end of the day, soon enough, all the big studios are going to come looking for the indie creators, because all the stories that are in Hollywood, they're going to run out. There's only so many Marvel, DC books you can adapt before you got to start looking for new stories. And we've started to see that already with some of the stuff that's going on when it comes to image stuff. But they're going to start looking for the indie stuff. And if we are good about promoting each other, there's enough money out there for everybody. So I just don't want us, I don't want it to seem like a competition between us. I want us to all be able to uplift each other and kind of grow there and elevate each other.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, everybody has a seat at the table, and I do agree with you that, like, we gotta remind ourselves of that. 'Cause I know, yeah, how they say like healthy competition, but like you said, it's like sometimes in certain settings it feels like, well, I'm the one doing this, like I have, but like even if you're in the same, I would say, like, industry, quote unquote, you're not doing the same thing as somebody else is doing. You're doing it in your own way. Therefore, it's like people say, everybody has a place at the table. Everybody's doing something differently. That's what I'm saying. Even if it's in the same genre or same type of business, nobody's doing the same thing. At least that's how I feel. So
yeah, there's a bag for every, again, because usually that's the conversation, right? Like, get into the bag. There's enough money in Hollywood and content. There's enough attention. There's enough followers. There's enough clout for everybody to have their piece, and not everybody has to be at the peak. At least for me, I don't need to be at the heights of an RDC. If I can have my small community of people on YouTube, my small community that like reads my stories, that enjoys what I do, I'm happy. And if that crosses over into other people's stuff, dope. If I can help promote and bring other people up with me, perfect. I'm happy. I don't, even when it comes to money, I don't need all the money in the world. I'm comfortable as long as I can be comfortable and do what I'm passionate about. I'll die happy. I'm in the grave happy knowing that I did what I came to do.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I would say, how has this journey, and like you've done a lot. You've done YouTube content, you've done streaming content, you have your own comic out now, you podcasted. How has that helped you grow as a person? It could be spiritually, mentally, physically, whatever the case may be.
I feel as though I've grown by having a little bit more perspective on the world and people, especially as Black people and nerd groups in particular.
Yeah.
I feel so. I've always looked at things from like a sociological framework. That's part of what my like undergraduate degree in college was, like based in sociology a little bit, and seeing how people react and how people treat each other over time historically. And when I first was really like introduced into like the blurred community and the nerd community online was like 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
It was kind of new to me. I didn't understand how people interacted. I didn't understand how people treated each other. And as I've worked on my own content and like collaborated with different people and have looked and analyzed and reviewed all kinds of other stuff, I've just noticed a lot of things that I feel like are great within the community that I think will serve us as a people to being great. And there's a lot of things that I don't enjoy as much that I feel like need to change. And I would feel like hopefully at some point we can move past as a people. Again, just kind of seeing that and seeing what I want to be able to promote for the better of us as a collective.
Yeah, that's true. And I would say, so I know for some people, like when they're writing their stories, it really impacts them, like indirectly sometimes, in whatever way. How has writing Reaper like impacted you in a way?
It's really made me really self-reflective, I guess, in a way of like, again, because I'm trying not to make James just a self-insert character where I'm not just writing myself. Obviously, a lot of myself is going to bleed into the character, but really going back to being like, oh, like I'll put James in a scenario or have him react in a way, and I'm like, oh, am I like that? Would I react in that situation? Like, is that how I do things? And kind of reflect on myself a little bit, and also kind of reflect on the inspirations for it. Like whether it's a person, whether it's a concept, seeing like how I really feel about things and how I see the world is something that's been really interesting in writing this, because I have to look at things from a sociological framework of how the world perceives things, and how I feel about the world and how they perceive those things. So it's really, I know I'm kind of giving a lot of like, well, kind of all over the place with it, but just a lot of reflection. We'll say that just to make things short.
No, I mean that's fair. That's fair. Well, again, like I tell everybody, it's about you. So like
Mm.
I'm just the sound. I'm just the what's the word? How do I say it? I'm like the conduit for you to talk about.
I don't know. Hey, what you do is important. Don't even minimize it. You're doing great.
But I use sometimes every once in a while before I like end the show, I let people give like a maybe like a quote or something for people to take out of the interview, or like what's an inspirational quote or something that you've heard that you've taken with you on your journey.
Hmm. That's a bunch I could point to. I guess I'm trying to. So what I'll say
Yeah.
is, it kind of goes into, I guess, a little bit of where we are right now and in the current political climate as well.
Mm,
As a person, you want to make sure that you're caring about injustice everywhere, and
mm,
that you're not like, you want to make sure that you're a person to where injustice only matter. You want to make sure that you're not only looking at things as far as injustice happening only when they don't affect you, or
mm,
only when they affect you. You want to make sure that the energy you have and the love you have for yourself and for people around you is something that you can be more empathetic about as far as looking at the rest of the world. Don't let things only concern you when it comes to your front doorstep, because 9 times out of 10, if something's happening over here, it more than likely is going to trickle its way over to you at some point. So you want to try to fight those things as soon as you see them. I know it's not a direct quote, which I'm kind of honest, but I'm trying to think of a direct quote, but that's
you're
kind of a
good.
concept that kind of came to me, I guess.
I mean, that's still a question that I'm trying to like get used to, like asking more often. So I mean,
Mhm.
honestly, whatever comes to mind comes to mind. I think that's a good. I think that's a good one. I think that's a good one.
I know for a fact, like after we end this, something will come to my head. I'll be pissed. I didn't think of it in the moment in time.
You're like, wait a minute, god damn.
Hmm.
But again, it was a pleasure having you on. Talk about your story. Talk about who you are. Hopefully, you had a good time.
I love this. Again, I never get to be on the other side of the interview, so I'm like having to think of this. I'm like, oh man, I'm usually trying to like think of what's the next question to ask. How does this question go to this question? Being able to kind of just go has been kind of refreshing. I'm not gonna lie. I've had a blast.
That's awesome. I love that for you guys, because like it's not, you're not the first person that's like had a podcast, and you're on the other end. It's fun. It's fun for me, honestly, because it's just like, yay, it's your turn.
Hmm.
And like Room Full of Blurs says, like for sure, we need more empathy. That's a perfect quote for the times. It really is, especially however last year was coming to this year. That's a reminder. That's a reminder. We need more empathy, guys. We
Hmm.
need more empathy.
Yes, we could go to the little Bible quote, I guess. Do unto others as you want others to do unto you. We'll keep it there. That's something as simple as easy.
Yeah. And for those that came in for the second show we had for the year, I really do appreciate you guys. First off, I just want to appreciate people that have been, as soon as the new year started, are like, "Hey, I got this person for you." I really appreciate that. That's a high compliment for somebody. Like, "Hey, I came here because I recommend you," or like, "Here's this person." It's like, "Oh, okay." I really do
Hmm.
appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Look forward to a few more shows this month. We still have like the open call, have even though we haven't done like a physical open call, but still have open call for those who want to be part of AnimeInkArt Live Talks. It's an easy process, but for those who may not know what I do, hi, my name is Lizzie. We're not in the art wall because we're in a different setting, but I have my art business. That's how I started AnimeInkArt, and pretty much I digitally edit my traditional drawing, and it's anime related and it's anime inspired. We're trying to vend more in the tri-state, outside. Hopefully, we'll see. I'll give you updates on whatever accepts me, because we have been applying, and we'll go from there. But I also sometimes, you may have seen me cosplay. We are affiliates with Otaku Noir. We were in their calendar last year. If you use code AnimeInkArt, you will get free shipping off your boxes. Please go do that. They have their noir mystery box coming out. Is going to be amazing. Also, I do the podcast now, but this was an extension of just supporting the community, because supporting the Blur community is part of the mission statement for what I do for AnimeInkArt. Thanks for the support on this. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to know more, if you want to support in other ways outside of the podcast, if you want to do commissions, if you want me to help you out with things, if you want me to see more stuff, please follow the Anime Ink Art 1 Instagram. Please follow the Anime